Well, there are more than 1 million female farmers in the U.S. today, and in honor of Women's History Month, we now want to check in with a well-known name across the ag industry who's being recognized as one of USA Today's 2025 Women of the Year. Welcome to the program, Colorado State professor, author, and renowned animal behavior expert, Dr. Temple Grandin. We are so thankful to have you with us today. We appreciate your time and congratulations on this milestone. Let's start with some background on yourself and how you became involved in agriculture.
Well, I actually came from a non-ag background originally from back east. And I got exposed to cattle and horses when I was a teenager. That's how I got interested. Students have to get exposed to things to get interested. I visited my aunt's ranch when I was 15. That was my first trip to the West. That introduced me to beef cattle. I went to a boarding school that had a small dairy. I learned how to milk cows there. And I can't emphasize enough, students need to get exposed to things to get interested in them. And I've been involved with cattle ever since.
Well, you've certainly made a number of notable contributions to livestock handling that have really set a standard in the industry. Speak to those efforts and some of the milestones from your time in agriculture over the years.
Well, I started out in the early 70s because I'm now 77 years old. And one of the very first things I looked at is what cattle were seeing when they went through a chute. And I noticed they might be afraid of a shadow. They might be afraid of a reflection, seeing a vehicle, a chain hanging down, seeing people up ahead. And people thought it was crazy to get in the chutes. Well, at the time, I didn't know that other people didn't think visually. I'm what's called an object visualizer. Everything I think about is a picture. So it was obvious to me to look at what the cattle were seeing. And that's the very first research that I did. And then I did my master's thesis, this was again during the 70s, on cattle behavior in different types of squeeze chutes. And I used a measurement system that actually is pretty similar to beef quality assurance. I measured prod score, slipping and falling, running, getting miscaught in the squeeze chute. And I found there were some differences between the different types of squeeze chutes and in the breeds of cattle. That was my master's thesis. And then I also became livestock editor for our state farm magazine. And there's a scene in the HBO movie where I walk up to the editor and just got his card. I was good at seeing doors to opportunity because I knew if I wrote for that magazine, that would really help my career. And in the 70s, I was livestock editor for 7 years of our state farm magazine, the Arizona Farmer Ranchman.
So interesting. Your journey is just fascinating. As we mentioned, you've been named one of USA Today's 2025 Women of the Year. Talk about being a woman in the ag industry and what this accomplishment means for you.
Well, it was a man's world back in the 70s. This is Arizona feed yards back in the 70s. And there's a scene in the HBO movie where bull testicles were put on my vehicle. And people ask me, since I'm also autistic, was autism a big barrier? No, autism was a non-issue. It was being a woman. Well, I had to make myself really good at what I did. Also, becoming a journalist at this time was helpful because there were women doing ag journalism. And I very quickly got a reputation that when I covered the cattle feeders meeting, I summarized the talks accurately. I got respected for that. And then I did my first design projects, which were the dipping vat projects that were shown in the HBO movie. And those were recreated off the original drawings. I made myself really good at what I did. And I got along really well with the owners of the feed yards. I got along well with the people that built the jobs, the cowboys out in the feed yards. Where I had a problem was middle management, foremans. It was a foreman that put bull testicles on my vehicle. It was a foreman that put the metal plate in the dip vat that drowned the cattle. And then we took that off and everything worked just fine. But making yourself really good. And the way I sold jobs was to show off my work. And I'm going to show you a drawing that later on in the 80s, this is one of my drawings right here, a project I did in the 80s. And I showed that to the Cargill company. This is I designed all the stockyards and everything. This was late 80s and early 90s for the Cargill beef plants. I learned to sell my work by showing pictures and drawings of my projects.
Amazing. You've gained so much respect. Your focus is now on mentoring students. Talk about that passion and why it's so important to educate the next generation of ag leaders.
I had some very good teachers when I was in college. I had Mr. Carlock, my science teacher, that got me motivated to study. He was a very important mentor. I was being an object visualizer. I'm not good at math. I worked with many shop people that could not do algebra, but they were inventing mechanical equipment for the beef industry. We need our object visualizers. And I have a book on visual thinking, and I present some of the science about object visualization and math thinking. So I made myself good at what I did, and find something you can do and make yourself really good at it.
Right. What's your message to other women in agriculture looking to make a difference in this industry?
Well, there's many more women in agriculture now than there was when I first started. I want to encourage young people. I was helped a lot by good teachers. I switched from a psychology major to an animal science major. I need to thank a professor named Philip Stiles, who helped me do that at Arizona State University. Another professor that helped me was Foster Burton in the construction department at Arizona State. Mike Nielsen, another person. These were people that helped me. I had some good professors that were extremely helpful, and I want to make sure I give them credit, and they helped me switch from a psychology major to an animal science major.
We appreciate your time so much. Renowned animal behavior expert, Professor Temple Grandin, we appreciate you being with us today.